also working on a story too today, tomorrow on the 20-year anniversary of 9/11. And from a high school sports perspective, I that was kind of about the time I'd first started, my job and my career. I was working part-time as, in Springfield, Missouri as a covering high school. And also I was landscaping. And when 9/11 happened, I was actually landscaping. I was at a house, we listened to it on the radio as the guy that I worked for. We kind of opened up the truck door and, listened as things were happening on the radio, and then went and watched, found a TV, in town there to watch what was going on. But I remember that Friday, that week, leading up to Friday night, most stuff was canceled that week. The NFL, the Major League Baseball was not happening. The pro college sports were pushed back till next week for the most part. I think there was some small college football, but the first thing to come back was high school football, that Friday night. And I remember covering a game that week, that Friday, Springfield Catholic, and I can't remember who they played, but talking to the coach after the game, and he was in tears, talking about what it meant to kind of get back to something that felt normal. And there was so much pageantry of patriotism, and everybody felt like they were together, united, which is so different than now, where we are as a country right now. It's just polar opposite. So, I kind of looking back, talking to people around here about that experience that week, and high school sports playing a part in coming back to normal, some sense of normalcy. And there's a lot of emotions, obviously, that week. And it was only 3 days removed from, when the attacks happened. So it was all very fresh. Yeah, I just thinking back, a few weeks ago, I was like, man, that night, I don't remember any details of the game. I remember covering the game, but I do remember that conversation with the coach, and his name was Bobby Cornelison. I covered a lot of his games over the years. Never seen him like that, never seen him in tears like that. And that always sticks with me. That September would have been 14th, 3 days after 9/11 happened. So working on a story on that, just kind of remembering the role high school sports played after the attacks.
Yeah, that was a very emotional time. Sports were something that it's like, it was the question, should we, shouldn't we? It was a thing that was actually needed to help heal things. It's kind of like comedy on TV. It's like, do you do comedy? How do you do comedy? How do you laugh? How do you make people laugh after something like that? How do you go out and play a sport? Something that's trivial. But those are the things that we need in everyday life that keeps us together and keeps us grounded. So they were so important. Sports was so important of being a healing factor back then.
It was. I mean, I think everybody struggled with, and high school sports was kind of like, well, yeah, we do need to play on Friday night. And for the most part, I think that's, and some teams I remember played on, maybe they did a, something at their school on Friday night, and then played on Saturday. I know I remember that being the case in some places where they maybe had a get together on Friday night and then as a community, and then played the game on Saturday. But, I think for the most part, I would have to go back and look. I remember, most of the college games were pushed back till the next weekend. There was even some weeknight games that following week. And I think Major League Baseball was completely off until the following week. NFL was pushed back. So, really high school sports was the first thing, to resume. And I think that was kind of fitting, because what's more community than high school sports? I mean, that there's nothing more. Maybe doesn't get the headlines of the Yankees game, or Bush throwing out the pitch at the Yankees game and stuff like that, which was also very emotional. But you had these little pockets of community all over the country that were getting together again for the very first time right after that. And I always think of that time in my life. I was early, I don't even 23 at the time, and that you're just in a different place as a human. You almost think of your life before 9/11 and after. And now I think probably your life before the pandemic and after. There's these marcations in your life where things change so drastically. And that was for sure, for certain, for many of us, that was the biggest one, was 9/11 at that time. And now this pandemic's a little bit different because it's lasting as long as it is. But those are probably the two biggest markations in our life, that there's pre and post. And the freshness of that post from 9/11 was that week. And there's things that happen to you during that week that seem so fresh even now. It's easy to remember that week.
Yeah, it is. And it's just weird how that is still such a benchmark. Or I shouldn't say weird. It's still a benchmark. It was such an emotional, tumultuous time that even though this pandemic is different, it's longer lasting, it's over time, that happened so fast. And it was such a shock, where this has not been, it's been shocking, coronavirus, but it's been a longer extended period of time. So I think when your system is shocked like it was with 9/11, it has a tendency to just last forever. It's made its mark.